Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Horror Syndicate Discourse. This is we're back to Tuesdays for now. Uh, Schedules are working out that way. I offered Jared to do a solo show, just me and him on Wednesdays, just bro love and whatever. But I just don't think he loves Italian horror as much as he leads on. But anyway, tonight the crew we're going to talk about top 20. We got a list. That's what we like to do. A lot of us, anyway. Top 20 horror films that are based off of books. And I made my list and forgot one that I just want to throw up real fast. I got this beautiful copy of Dracula. But one of the problems I had with it was which version do I choose? Because I like the horror of Dracula, which is nothing like this, and I like Dracula 1931, which is nothing like this for the most part, and then I like Bram Stoker's Dracula and all these other ones, 1979 and 1979. Anyway, let me introduce the fellers. We've got zombie COVID survivor Jared.
I like how you said that without me being able to retaliate. Yes, I love Italian horror.
How are you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling much better.
Thank God.
As you can see, I'm now a zombie COVID survivor.
Yes.
Oof.
So happy to have you back on the show. Hello, Luke. And Luke Hardiman, if anybody hasn't seen, check it out on Facebook, did caricatures of all of us. And he's sending them out to me to get scanned, to get colored, to make T-shirts and all kinds of shit. So we'll have to get him a T-shirt whenever comes time. We've also got Cage the Keith. He's here.
Hello.
We'll fix the screen once Seth joins. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. How you doing?
I'm good.
You ready to watch Halloween Kills?
Yeah, here soon.
About 10 months from now.
Ole?
Oh, I gotta watch the alternate ending.
Yeah,
Oh,
don't
no,
say anything about it. And you're gonna see
Oh,
Scream
you're talking
on
about that one.
Thursday.
Yes, I am gonna see.
So is this dude, who's got his middle finger out already. What's that about, Seth?
So Keith rubbing it in that he got his copy of Howling Kills in today.
Oh, well, I'll probably have mine
I'm so
tomorrow.
mad. I'm so mad.
What's the other thing you're missing?
Uh,
The Phantom of the Opera, the 1940s.
Oh man. All right. Well, you need
I
to
ordered
get
that like
shit.
right after Christmas.
Damn. Well, shipping's a little backed up. I think Nate knows a little something about that. Nate, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good. I'm glad to see you guys. Glad to have the full house, even though now I got to bail. But we're going to do the top 20 based on the group horror films that are based off of books. Did somebody walk past my doorway, or was that just me?
your son.
Oh, God. I saw it on my camera. Like, what the hell was that?
You've got ghosts.
I'm ready to talk about ghosts and urban legends, which is a topic I really want to discuss soon. So hopefully maybe next week or the week after. But anyway, does anybody have the list ready?
I have it on my phone.
Great. So I'm gonna leave it off for you guys. I'm gonna try to watch. He's down there. He's out there hurting himself. And I'm gonna go check on my daughter. I might drop back in every now and again. I just I feel bad about this, but you guys have a good show, and I'll see you later.
Okay. All right. We going backwards in this list, or we starting at the bottom, going to the top?
Yeah, start at 20.
20.
We should say these aren't like what we think are the best books that were
Adaptations.
turned into film. They're like our favorite movies that are based on books.
Yeah, because half of us haven't read all these books.
Yeah, because that's something that horror. I think it was more common. Whereas a lot of these films are based on novels and bestsellers, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't see that often anymore. Yeah.
We will warn you. It's a lot of Stephen King movies.
As to be expected.
Yeah. Well, number 20 is Nightbreed, which I've only seen once, and I saw recently, and I loved it.
It was based off of
that was on
his book called Cabal.
Yeah, that one was on my list. I'm a huge fan of the director's cut of Nightbreed, and I really like Cabal as well. I think it's a really good adaptation of that story. And just like with Hellraiser, Clive kind of expands upon the world and the mythology with the film. So he gets to, it's pretty cool having him as the original author doing the movie, because he gets to kind of, he changes little things up here and there. But it's a good adaptation. I love it. I love the story. I love the characters and the character designs and everything, and that's why it made my list.
Yeah, my favorite thing about it was it feels like such a big world, even though it takes place like in one small like underground community. Like it definitely like gives you the feeling of that like, you're in a different world and not just 6 feet under the ground somewhere.
Yeah. It really brings Midian to life with that movie.
No. Jared, Nathan, you guys got anything?
I read the book about 30 years ago, so I don't really remember it well. But yeah, I like the film. It was I think we talked about it on the show. It was just a really interesting, unique. I don't think there's anything like Nightbreed. It's kind of like a superhero comic book version of horror or something. Like there's something it totally could be a comic book. It was a comic book. Mm-hmm. It got turned into a comic, but it feels like a comic book horror movie to me.
I never read the book, but that was actually the one that I haven't read of his big three. The other one that I can think of off the top of my head that's not been mentioned, we can add it as an honorable mention, would be Midnight Meat Train. That is also a very good book. I read that one, or a short story. But yeah, I really want to read Cabal for sure.
All right. Well, number 19 is going to give Seth a hard on, which is The Howling.
Holy moly!
Okay, first off, please shut your whore mouth. I love The Howling. I love the movie, and I also love the 3 books. And I think the movie is one of those rare times where the movie is actually an improvement over the book. Like the first book was really good, but it's very slow burns, very slow paced, and I think all the changes that they made for the movie were necessary. I enjoy both. There's a lot of differences between the both. Like the Howling movie is a loose adaptation. Part 4, the Howling 4, is actually closer to the book than the first Howling movie. But it was all necessary changes, and it's a classic werewolf movie for a damn good reason.
I didn't even know it was based off a book until I got to the list.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had no clue.
I didn't either.
Shit.
Joe Dante's such a unique visionary anyway. I can't see how it would have been like the books. Like, I haven't read the books, but like when you get those type of directors who kind of have their own style, it's kind of like if Tim Burton adapts something, or Terry Gilliam, it's going to have their fingerprints all over it. And Joe Dante's in that group.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, Ray's not here for number 18, which I know he loves, which is Rosemary's Baby, which I've never seen, so I'm not in this conversation.
I picked up the book. I have a copy, but I haven't read it yet. But I do love the film. It's one of the great films. Roman Polanski. I was just watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My daughter requested that last night, so we watched that. Roman's in there, and they talk about Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I need to read the book. This was on Ray's list, I think. So he's not here to talk about it. But.
I would imagine so. I mean, I've never seen it, but like I think it's the climax. Like I know the whole ending where like they're all like she's like screaming about her baby, and then they like show its face. So like it's one of those like, because of how young I am, some things are just ruined.
Yeah. But then, like, I mean,
It's eyes.
it's
Yeah, that part.
still so good to watch because it's really an incredible piece of filmmaking. The cinematography, the art direction, the performances, Roman Polanski's direction. It's like, I knew Janet Leigh dies in Psycho, but because of Hitchcock, worth watching. Doesn't matter if you know everything about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And Rosemary's Baby falls under that. To me, Rosemary's Baby is one of the 3 most important horror films of that decade, and kind of helped transform horror from then on. That and Night of the Living Dead really were kind of the movies in '68 that really changed the whole playing field.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to check that book out because I bought the book for like 50 cents at a consignment store here. I was like, holy shit, I gotta get this.
Yeah, any kind of book I'm like familiar with, I see the thrift store, I pick it up. Like I have I think it's the Odyssey or the Iliad, like in a weird no, it's Treasure Island. It's like in a weird small like leather red book, and it still has like a tag on it that says grocery store, and it's like 10 cents or something like that. Next on the list, I know it was on my list, which is American Psycho. I've never read the book, but I absolutely love American Psycho, which I know some people are like, if you love American Psycho, there's something wrong with you, but that movie's amazing. I think that might have been...
That was on my list too.
I know, like, I didn't see it growing up, and then obviously I grew up with Christian Bale as Batman, and then eventually I got to see American Psycho, and I was like, this is weird.
Oh, you didn't see him in Newsies first?
I don't even know what that is.
What?
What's Newsies?
Yeah, I remember DiCaprio was supposed to play Patrick Bateman, wasn't he?
Ooh.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, because like he was trying really hard to break that heartthrob thing after Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first thing he did was Celebrity, which is like a Woody Allen film. Like he was trying to get away from that. He didn't want to get
Typecast
as the heartthrob kid. And so I'm pretty sure DiCaprio was supposed to play Bateman originally.
That would have been very weird.
That time. But yeah, this is a great, I mean, Brett's writing he's just one of the great writers of his era. And this is his masterpiece, really. And then the film was, I think, really effective and well done. And
definitely.
I think American Psycho is easily one of the best. Like that's that period of film where I always shit on the 2000s, but American Psycho is the exception. Like,
yeah, it doesn't even feel like a 2000s movie.
It's just it's phenomenal.
No, I remember the thing I like about it most. Like, one, I don't get how a lot of people miss the whole point of the movie. Like, they don't really like get exactly what it's about. Which I'm like, it's in your face. It's super obvious. But I like all the music stuff with Bateman. It's super entertaining. Let's see.
This was Huey Lewis in the News' best as Alf out.
It's so good.
They really came out of their shell with this release.
This is a studio.
Number 16. I don't know what this is, but Night Watch / Day Watch.
I've seen the films, but I didn't read the books.
I've never heard of them.
I had those on there. They're Russian, right? Russian films.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Go for it, guys. I've seen the films, but I haven't read the books. I don't know.
Well, the reason why there's a slash here, because they're 2 separate movies, but and as Jared can attest to this, both of those movies are actually based on material from the first book. So even though the sequel book is called Daywatch, it's the title of the sequel of the movie, everything that happens in the Daywatch movie happens in the Night Watch book.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And they're not entirely accurate to the books, but they're just kind of really fun movies. They're weird, they're Russian, so they're weird, you know. And you got all this like weird Russian horror and weird Russian melodrama going on, but just visually they're really cool. I can't remember the director's name, but he went on to do Wanted.
Timur
he's
Bebektov.
Yeah, something like that.
Timur Bebektov.
Yeah, but I would recommend reading the books too, especially if you like those movies. I think there's 5 books total. But yeah, Jared.
So what exactly are they about? Because I seriously don't know what they
So
are.
it's not treading any new ground necessarily. So it kind of crosses over Twilight, over Underworld. It's vampires and werewolves.
Okay.
You have a night watch and a day watch, where you have the vampires that watch over everything during the night watch, and then you have werewolves that watch over everything over the day watch. And they've made kind of a weird, like a treaty, I guess.
Mhm.
They wouldn't fuck with each other during these things, and then this huge apocalyptic event happens, and then they have no choice but to intervene or interact with each other. It's the day watch or night watch is actually a really phenomenal movie. Day watch is a little bit more action, kind of not really a horror movie, but night watch is fucking awesome. If you guys
I just want to throw out, it's not just vampires and werewolves either. There's other types of there's many different types of shapeshifters.
Yeah, shapeshifters, too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shapeshifters and many different things going on. It's very much almost like everything, horror kind of thrown into one. But yeah, I give the movies a watch, especially Night Watch. Really cool stuff. And
Those came out like around that whole Matrix era time frame, wasn't it?
I believe a little bit after that. Yeah,
a little bit after, like when Equilibrium, and this was like 2001, something like that. It's been, I haven't seen.
Yeah, it was the 2000s.
There was another movie called Night Watch at that time that I loved. It was a remake of I remember maybe a Belgian movie, but it was Ewan McGregor and Josh Brolin and Patricia Arquette, where like a night watchman at a morgue.
Yep. Yeah, holy shit! I haven't seen that since it came out on video. I forgot about that movie.
It was a creepy one, man. I bought Scott Shermer, the guy who directed Harvest Lake and Found and The Bad Man. He was doing a sale, so I bought a bunch of stuff off of him, and that was one of the DVDs I got from him. I had it on VHS. I hadn't seen it in like 20 years. It's not as good as I remember it. Like it's very much
aged
in that 1997, 98 era. But Nick Nolte and Patricia Arquette. I want to say Ted Levine may have been in it. But it's some creepy elements to it. I liked it, and I still have not seen the original. Like I've been meaning to do that for 30 or 20 years or so. I find it.
Next on the list, which is one of my favorites, which is Cujo.
Yeah, that was on mine.
Yeah, I've never read the book Cujo. All I know is Cujo is one of the only movies that gives me anxiety. Just because I don't know, just the way the movie's filmed and made and shot.
That was a movie that scared the shit out of me. I think it may be the first movie that scared the crap out of me. I saw it when it came out in '83. I'm the same age as the kid who stars in it. And my babysitter's kids rented the VHS tape. I guess '84 is probably when the VHS came out. And they watched it. My parents were out that night. So my babysitter was watching this that night, and they watched it, and I was traumatized. I remember that movie scared the shit out of me. And it really is still cool. It's still one of my favorite Stephen King movies. It's one of the ones that I don't think it's enough credit, which is really crazy because Dee Wallace is incredible in that film. It's like one of the best horror film performances. Stephen King says all the time, he goes, that was an Oscar worthy performance. I think that's her best film. When I met her, she said that was her favorite film.
Yeah, I mean, she sells that movie. I mean, if she wasn't like, if
Yeah.
the whole movie is exactly the same and she wasn't in it acting the way she was, it wouldn't have been what it is.
It's just a creepy real world concept. Like you can imagine as a parent being stuck in that situation where if you get out of that car, you're probably going to die. But if you don't get out of that car, you're going to die, and your son's going to suffocate to death. You know, it's a horrific movie.
Yeah.
And
again,
also where the protagonist isn't 100% innocent. She's having an affair on her husband. Like she's like I could see people watching that movie today going, I don't like this bitch, you know, and like it has to be good or perfect now. And it's like, but like Stephen King wasn't afraid to, you know, give this character some flaws and you know, not so innocent.
Right.
But the book's great. The film, Stephen King. I know we could just fill this whole thing up. I mean,
honestly, we could make a top 20 list of just his adaptations.
Keith has got a Carrie shirt on. That was on my list. It didn't make our list. I think Carrie is phenomenal. It almost made our list, but it didn't. But,
yeah, it wasn't super. I like Carrie, but it's not super high on my list of stuff. The other thing I like about Cujo, though, is it's another one of those like single location movies, which I love single location movies.
Yeah.
Next on the list, I haven't seen this movie in forever. The Amityville Horror, which I'm one of the weird ones, and I like the remake.
I read this book when I was like 14, probably. It was right before my high school, probably 13, maybe. I checked it out at the library. I knew about the movie, but I'd never actually seen the movie. It always sticks out in my mind because I mean it's very, very descriptive the way that he writes it, and it's as we've said earlier in the podcast, I haven't read everything that I put on my list, but Amityville Horror was one of the books that I actually read growing up, so that one is actually kind of near and dear to my heart.
I remember my parents had a copy, like a paperback copy, so I was like, what the hell is that? Because it's creepy, and that house and the fly and all that, and you're like, what the Amityville Horror? It's just like the book covers were always really striking on that. And so, and it's like that. Like there are those books, those true story, even though it's probably bullshit, true story books that are notorious where it's kind of like you have to read. So I have read the Amityville Horror, and it's kind of like Helter Skelter or something. It's like one of those big books that are notorious that you got to read if you're into horror. And the Amityville Horror. I'm not a huge fan of the film. I think the film's okay. I like the sequel a lot better, the Possession. Like I hadn't seen the Possession. I was probably in my teens. I was at my grandparents' house, and we went to Walmart, and I bought VHS. I think it was a double cassette of the first two movies, and I was buying it for the first movie because I figured the sequels are probably all crap. So we watched the first movie, and then I popped the second one, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is so much better!" Really generally creepy. So yeah, I dig. That's a good choice. Kind of a rite of passage to read the Amityville Horror movie as a horror fan, I think.
So obviously I'm younger, and I know some of you probably aren't old enough. I don't know, but when Amityville was like going on, like was it a big deal? Like did everybody talk about Amityville? Because I know it was like a real life thing, and like
what year was 76?
I can't remember.
Yeah, it was the Conjuring couple. They were one of the ones. They were the ones that investigated it, right?
We're all too young.
Yeah, I was
a
baby.
too young for that.
The movie
the Conjuring couple actually investigated the house. Right?
Yeah, the Warrens.
The Warrens. Yeah,
they put a little snippet of it in Conjuring 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which I wish that was what that movie was about.
I think there's been so much about Amityville that they just said,
yeah, I could see that.
They've got so many stories.
Number 13, which was on my list, is probably on other people's lists, is The Thing.
Who goes
Which-
there?
which I'm guessing is probably very loosely based. I've never read the book, and I know a lot of it wasn't uncovered until recently.
It's a short story, isn't it? Novella.
I believe so.
I've never read it. Ray said he read it when he was off air with me. I actually did not even know that it was based off of a book. I just knew it was a remake from the old 1950s movie.
Yeah. Well, I know they did a re-release recently because they like uncovered like a bunch of it that was never published or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe they.
Frozen Hell.
Yeah, Frozen Hell.
Right. Yeah.
Was it like-
I read Who Goes There. It's I would say Carpenter's film is closer to that novella, but it's still it's closer than the 50s movie was, but it's still different enough. Especially in the novella. McCready wasn't a helicopter pilot; he was a scientist. He was really the guy that really took charge, and there was a lot to his history as a scientist, and that's how he was able to come up with the blood tests and stuff like that. But it's an interesting story for sure. And surprisingly, I didn't include this one on my list because I was like, I'm going to be different and not put a single fucking Carpenter movie on here. There's three. and then
I put 2 on mine, I think.
I was trying so hard not to put a Stephen King movie on my list.
Yeah. But hey, it made it anyway. So yeah, Carpenter's film is it's one of the best. It's arguably one of the best horror movies out there, and it's a pretty solid adaptation. I actually bought Frozen Hell, at it yet. But.
Yeah, I can't see Kurt Russell as a scientist. I'm just picturing Kurt Russell's character exactly how he is in Carpenter's movie, but he's a scientist. And it doesn't work.
Yeah, everything about him is different. Like his whole demeanor and everything is very different in the original story. He's much more calm and much smarter.
Less paranoid.
But no, I mean, I don't know how much we can say about The Thing. I mean, I think we've talked about it multiple times. It's
yeah,
a never dying movie.
What's amazing about that film is like people say, how do you know when a movie's good or bad? And they say, give it time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't really know. And The Thing is representative of that because that movie was just panned and shit on and called a disaster and a bomb. And today, people put that thing up there with the best horror films of all time. And it's I mean, really, all these movies that get shit on now, maybe 20 years, 30 years from now, people will be calling it one of the best horror films. I think they will. It comes around, people go back and go, well, what was wrong with me? I must have been an asshole because there's nothing wrong with the movies.
Well, that's happening like right now with Amazing Spider-Man. Not horror, but to what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, those movies were, yeah.
People are going back and giving it credit.
Go ahead, Seth.
I was gonna say, it reminded me. I was reading something. I don't remember if it was an interview with Carpenter or someone involved, but they were mentioning how people who were fans of the 1950s, The Thing from Another World, were and people involved with that movie were shitting on Carpenter's movie for what they did with the remake. And you kind of see that kind of echo today with fandom. It's kind of fascinating.
What's really, I was even thinking about that, like how many movies that people consider classics from the 80s, especially, and not just horror, but just 80s films in general, were critically panned and the public hated and shit on them, and they were just considered to be awful, terrible movies. And but our generation, I mean, almost the people defending all this stuff were, 5, 10, 12 years old when these movies came out. So the adults of that time were like, God, that movie was shit. But 5-year-old kids are like, I love Ice Pirates, man. It's awesome.
Time Bandits.
Solar babies.
That generation of adults were like, I don't understand any of this.
Yeah, they're like, because I remember what was the Goldbergs. You know, Adam Goldberg is my age, and they did an episode where they spoofed, I think, Goonies, and you know, he just thought everybody loved the Goonies. Well, a lot of the crew were like, you know, born in the '60s, so they were like high school or 20-year-olds when Goonies came out. And they said, "Man, I hated that movie. It was stupid. The kids were so annoying." And anytime you see a movie, like right now, we're seeing the Ghostbusters after. There's so many people are talking about Ghostbusters, like, man, those kids piss me off. They suck. Kids ruin movies. And, you know, I think that's always been a thing. Like, you know, I figured everybody loved Goonies, but, you know, a lot of adults were like, man, these kids were annoying as shit. You know, Kevin McAllister was such a dickhead, you know, or whatever they're thinking. So yeah, it's just time. Everything comes in circles. But that's the fun thing about like I said, time tells, and The Thing was one of those movies that even like at that same period, you know, Halloween 3 is now considered one of the best for decades.
Trashed on for years.
Next on the list, I know Seth has read the story or book. The next movie is Candyman, which I'm pretty sure I put on my list. I can't remember.
Actually, surprisingly, I have not read The Forbidden. I have not read
shocked.
Loosely based. Yeah, loosely based on The Forbidden.
Yeah.
Some of the books of blood, right?
I know some of the differences. That's about it.
So what? We got 3 Clive Barker stories on this list?
I believe so.
That's pretty good, considering most of you would think Stephen King would be on them more, which, I mean, he's plenty on this, but Clive Barker.
I would say we're about to get to the to the
Oh yeah, we're getting there.
No, I mean, I haven't read the story of Candyman, but Candyman's one of those movies that I feel like was beyond its years when it was made, about like what it's about and the social message within the film. Like it was, I don't know. It was beyond of when it was made. It just wasn't something that was marketed or worked on. And
Is it fairly different from the movie though? I think it seems like I've heard it is. No,
I've only read that it's loosely based. Like the character, I think is what is connected to it the most.
Yeah.
Well,
it was never called Candyman.
Yeah. Well, the book takes place in somewhere in the UK, right? You know, from wherever Clive Barker's from, Liverpool maybe.
Yeah.
And there wasn't so much. There was social commentary with it, but it wasn't about race. It was more about class. It was classism.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of the Candyman character himself. I remember very little of some of the details that I know about it, but like anytime the character came, he smelled like something sweet. He smelled like candy. That's why he was called the Candyman. But that's about all I know. I haven't read The Forbidden, like I said. I just know some of the differences. But
yeah.
But Bernard Rose took the material and he created something I think is fantastic. I mean, Candyman's one of the best of the 90s, in my opinion.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're getting into the King. Next movie is The Mist, which I know I put on my list.
It was on mine. Yeah. That was my favorite Stephen King short story. It was in Skeleton Crew. A little longer than most of his short stories in those collective books. It's probably 150 pages maybe, or at least over 100 pages.
Yeah. It's more of a novella than anything. I think a lot of the stories in Skeleton Crew were novellas more so than like Night Shift, which had a bunch of short stories. But
The Mist was just really cool in the film. Frank Darabont, anytime he touches Stephen King, it's always like a treat. So, and The Mist was like I love that. I love the ending. I know that's usually but Stephen King loved the ending. But I mostly love that that Frank was so invested in that ending that he would not do the movie if they wouldn't let him do that ending. Because usually that's usually the make or break. People hate the movie because of the ending or whatever. Mm-hmm. I just remember watching it going, no, there's no fucking way a studio laughed.
Yeah, it definitely seems like something that would be like alternate ending on a
it's like they're gonna wake release. Up and it's just a nightmare, right? And but you know, just a phenomenal film. I mean, how can you not? I mean, this movie homages Drew Struzan for fuck's sake. Like, Thomas Jane is fashioned after Drew Struzan, and that's the coolest thing ever. And again, I love the book. The short story. It was my favorite of King. So it was really cool to finally see it come to the screen and to have such a great filmmaker do it. It was cool.
No, the movie's really, really good. I like Thomas Jane and like everything. If you have, I know Nathan probably has, but like my biggest downfall with the movie is like some of the CGI hasn't held up very well. But if you watch the black and white version,
it's the only way to watch it.
It's so good, but like it helps with the CGI because it gets rid of like the glossiness they tried to put on the CGI.
Right. Is that only like on the DVD and Blu-ray release?
I have a Blu-ray release with it.
Yeah, I don't know which one I have, but I have the black and white one. It's additional. It's not just come in black and white. It's got the color and the black and white.
Yeah.
Darabont wanted the movie to be in black and white originally. Of course, that doesn't sell, so they released it. But it's really cool also that he got his way and got to release it in black and white. And it is the only way you'll want to watch it after you see it in black and white.
I was going to say that movie would be still just as chilling in black and white.
I'll say, Jared, if you try to find it, it has more of like a classic cover art on it with like the guy's hand over his face.
That's the poster art.
Yeah, that's what the Blu-ray with the black and white has on it.
Gotcha. I actually just showed that movie to my fiance a couple months ago. She fucking loved it. She thought it was terrible in the worst way, which is always awesome.
It's a very powerful movie, like emotionally too. Like, like I don't cheer. I don't really cheer at all when something happens to people in movies. But when that one bitch got shot, I literally was like,
I knew where this was going.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like so many of like Darabont's like it's like his theater troupe or something. Like he's got like most of them ended up on The Walking Dead. Like Thomas Jane was supposed to play Rick Grimes, I believe, originally.
Yep.
And so you got like Melissa, what's her name? Melissa McBride. I should know she's Kentuckian. She was a day player on that. She played the woman who wanted to go home and like to her kids. And that scene where she like, is there a gentleman here who will walk a lady home? She did that scene. Apparently, like she blew everybody away. They gave her like a standing ovation after the scene was cut. And I was like, I think she just won her part as Carol on The Walking Dead. And that's cool because she's become like, to me, the best character on The Walking Dead outside her. You know? And she's a sweetheart. I got to meet her in Lexington, and I did a portrait of her, and she actually cried. And there's just touch that somebody would do that. She was just a sweetheart.
No, they also tried to do a TV show of this, which I don't know if any of you watched, but I watched it and I liked it, and then they canceled it. And I was like, okay, whatever. Just wasted my time watching this thing.
I didn't see the show.
I mean, I liked it for what it was. Next on the list,
kind of like they did Under the Dome for a season or so.
Yeah,
too.
I liked that too, and then they canceled it.
Great book, and I started the show, but I never finished it.
I liked it.
Yeah, that was a great book.
Next on the list is a more recent movie, which is Doctor Sleep, which is amazing, and I wish I would have gotten to see it in theaters. And I really hope, like, I don't know, Blu-ray sales or something lets him make the sequel that he wants to make, because he deserves it. I want to watch it.
You want to make a Dick Halloran movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, which would be fantastic. Like Doctor Sleep, man. Everybody slept on this thing. Like I went and saw it twice at the theater, and yeah, I saw it twice, and like it made no money. No one saw it, and then it
No
came
pun
out.
intended.
Yeah, and then it came out, and like everybody's like, "Holy shit, this is great!" I'm like, "Yeah, why don't you go fucking support it?" You know, it's just you know, Mike Flanagan is one of the most consistent filmmakers out there in this genre, and I guess people didn't know him still. I guess the stuff that he's done in the last 2 or 3 years has kind of made people aware more like him.
All of his Netflix shows, yeah.
But this movie, man, Rose the Hat alone is worth every dollar.
No, I didn't. I don't know why I didn't get to go see it. Like I know I wanted to, but I didn't get to go for some reason. But I know I pre-ordered it as soon as it was available to, and then I got it. I haven't watched the theatrical cut. I've only watched the extended director's cut version, so I don't know how big of a difference it is. But me and Kayla watched it because we love The Shining, and
it's like 30 minutes difference.
It was so good. Like it's just as good as The Shining, in my opinion. I have no problems with that movie. Literally think it could have made it better if they would have deep fake Jack Nicholson's face on the dad character.
Yeah,
Elliot.
I said they should have got Christian Slater to play.
Christian Slater probably would have looked more like him than Elliot.
Yeah. But just seeing the Overlook again, like I never envied a filmaker more than to like be on those sets, to recreate those sets,
recreating that stuff. Yeah,
just recreating the ghosts when all the ghosts show up to attack. Just awesome.
I need to get some time and actually like read both of those books back to back. I know they were written like 45 years apart.
Oh yeah,
40 years apart. But I mean, I would really like to take some time and just read them both back to back.
Yeah, I mean, Doctor Sleep didn't come out very long before they made the movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe 5 years, 4 or 5 years, maybe.
But
2010, 2012,
maybe 7 years, because the movie came out in 2019, right?
Oh yeah, so yeah, it was probably
I remember when the book came out because I just finished reading 11/22/63, which is my favorite Stephen King book.
That is
phenomenal.
Okay. 2013.
Yeah, and like I tried reading Doctor Sleep right after reading 11/22/63, and I just couldn't do it. I was still in the headspace. So, 11/22/63 fucking blew me away.
Yeah, it's really good.
So I do gotta read.
And I hate to interrupt everybody, but if you guys have Hulu, you guys can watch that mini series that has James Franco in it. It is actually really good and really close to what the book can, Man, it's close.
it's as good as the book, if not a bit better. Yeah. And like it is really, I was just floored. Like people who say like Stephen King's lost it, fuck you, man. That story is arguably one of his top 3, 5. It is so good.
Yes, that is in my top 5 of his books of all time.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Number 1.
See,
you're number 1. Nice.
I grew up with Stephen King stuff, and I think I was in high school when 11/22 came out, and I immediately bought it because in high school I was obsessed with JFK and like the assassination stuff. I don't know why, but I was obsessed with it. And that book came out, and I was like, 2 things I love in one thing, and like I bought it immediately. I think I found it at like Kroger's or some bullshit. I was like, I need it. Next on the list, I know all of you are giant fans of it. It's Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
I'm not a giant fan of Pet Sematary, so you guys can take it
Growing
away.
up, that was my favorite Stephen King book. Like I remember reading that and hating that it ended. Like I just liked the Creed so much, and Judd, and the movie was like, you know, the late 80s, like 1989 was kind of a downer year. Like all the slashers really went to dog shit that year. But Pet Sematary came out, and it was genuinely creepy, and just great performance from Fred Gwynn, and you know the kids. I mean, it's it's just a great. It's just a scary story, really upsetting story, and it's just, I love the folklore in it. I love the atmosphere of it. I love Pascal. I love there's so much about it in the book. They complement each other. I think there's some little differences, but they're pretty. They did a pretty good, accurate portrayal of the book.
Yeah, I think so too. Also in my top 5 of Stephen King.
I do have a question because I've never read Pet Sematary, and I'm not a huge fan of the movie because I like Pet Sematary 2 more. Is that just a movie they made, or is that based off of anything?
It's just a movie.
That's just a cash cow.
I just like, I don't know why I like part 2. Maybe it's because I relate. Maybe it's because I relate.
When I was a kid.
It might be because I relate with the characters more because I don't have a child. So a lot of movies that have to do with like the loss of a child, I'm just like, okay.
That movie fucked me up before I had a kid, though.
And I was talking about this with a friend the other night. Like when when I was a kid, Pet Sematary 1 and 2 always played on USA, right? And when I was a kid, I liked them both, but I always gravitated towards part 2 because, you know, the main character was a kid and all that. But then I grew up.
Wow, thanks. Let's see how it is.
You know, the movie really took on, the movie and the book really took on a whole new meaning for me after becoming a parent. Like, you know, it was always a cool movie. It was always a cool book. But then I really understood after becoming a parent, and, you know, every parent's worst fear is losing their child. And like, so all of a sudden I'm like putting myself mentally in the place of Lewis as he's going through grief. And that's what the whole book is about, is grief, you know, and,
right.
And I think the movie actually Mary Lambert did a really good job capturing some of the grief with some of the choices that she made with the movie. So yeah, I love it.
Movie's still hard to watch sometimes. Even not having a kid, that movie is still hard to watch.
Let's see. Hang on. I got comments. My Facebook hasn't been updated with comments like at all. See, Luke said he loves Dr. Sleep. Almost everybody's like, Dr. Sleep is amazing. Let's see. Scott Montgomery said a bit too creepy for me. I guess he's talking about Pet Sematary because right after he said sometimes dead is better. All right.
Never know what that guy.
It's all it's given me. Facebook doesn't like me right now. Next on the list is The Exorcist, which I also didn't know was based on a book.
What?
I didn't know that.
Are you kidding me, Keith?
I had no clue. I'm not.
It was literally a bestseller before it was a major motion picture.
I'm young, all right. I didn't know.
Oh my God.
I'm also not a giant fan of The Exorcist.
Oh my God.
I like The Exorcist. I'm not a giant fan of it, but I didn't know it was a book. I'm sorry.
The only book and film to actually scare the shit, literally. Like I saw the movie when I was 12, and I was so terrified I could not sleep. It's the only movie I've ever seen that I lost sleep. I didn't read the book until I was about 20, 21, 22.
Yeah, I didn't read the book either until later.
And even then, like, I remember getting to the scene with the spider walk because that version of the film hadn't been released yet with the lost footage or whatever, the spit scene you've never seen or whatever, that hadn't come out yet. So I had no idea that was going to happen. If you read that scene in the book, it's not just her coming down the stairs. She's like walking. She's following the nanny around everywhere she goes. It's like I read the scene, this paragraph, and the hair stood up on my arm. I was like, I was freaked the fuck out. Like I was like, that movie, that book, and the Mothman Prophecies are the only books to ever creep me out. Like really scare me reading them.
Hopefully that scene you just described, hopefully that's something they put. I know they're making a new one, but
But they did it the way it was in the book because it was
which we could do now. I could see why they didn't do it then, but that'd be really cool to see.
That's another one I didn't think about to add to our list. Would have been the Mothman Prophecies.
I was actually expecting that one from somebody. I think Ray likes that movie. I think I grew up hearing nothing but that movie. So, because
that's a film that the book is really not a narrative book. It's a collection of stories.
Yeah.
It's like comparing the World War Z book to the movie.
Yeah,
it's like that.
Exactly. That's probably a good analogy. Is the World War Z book? Like, it's just like an account of sightings. And I remember reading in there, they spotted a flying man over the Ohio River in Louisville, Kentucky, in the 1910s. And I read that and I said, no fucking way. And I went to the library, went through all the old film, like the old newspapers, and found the article at the library. Like, holy shit, like it's real. That book, the Men in Black, creeped me out so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have because I don't live very far from Point Pleasant. They do the Mothman Festival every year.
Yeah,
there's always two guys dressed up like the Men in Black, and they just walk around and don't talk to anybody and just stare at people. No, it's fun. I'm just picturing Nathan now, like going to the library, walking in, and like the lady's like, "What do you want?" And he's like, slams the book on the table. He's like, "I want to make sure this isn't bullshitting me.
I need the microfiche.
I need to make sure that Peel isn't lying."
Yes, I need the microfiche.
Is it Peel or Keel? I can't remember. I can't remember his last name.
I can't remember.
John Peel. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's Peel.
Peel. Okay.
All right. Next on the list is Hellraiser.
Hellbound Heart.
Waiting for Seth to tell us everything known to man about it.
I love Hellraiser. I love the Hellbound Heart. I'm a fan of Clive Barker in general, even though I haven't read all his stuff. But Hellraiser is just I love the entire franchise, weirdly enough, but like the first movie especially is really good. And one of the things I really love about it is like the story and the villains. I think Frank and Julia are great villains. They are the true villains of that story. And just like with Nightbreed, Clive Barker did a movie based on, this short little novella, and he really expanded upon it. And just visually interesting. I think it's just great score from Christopher Young. I love it. I know Jared also loves it.
That music alone is just chilling. Christopher Young is a very underrated composer. Like that, and his Nightmare on Elm Street 2 score is possibly the scariest of that franchise. As well.
Absolutely.
Even with the whales. But Hellraiser, like, and Clive Barker, like, what was it? Was it Stephen King who said, "I've seen the future of horror, and his name is Clive Barker"? Is that the quote?
Yep.
Clive Barker, to me, always represented something like there is nobody like him. Like there is nothing like.
Yeah.
He is in a world and of his own. Like there are people.
A good description.
He is like there's just nothing like the Clive Barker imagination and Hellraiser. When you talk about going to see a film and it takes you into another realm or another place, I feel that when I watch Hellraiser. I feel like I'm in another universe or so. There's just something. I guess because it's supposed to be America, right? But it's European feeling, or there's something off about
It's got a
the whole
disconnect.
thing. But just the darkness, and when the Cenobites show up, and just the visuals and the music, it's just that it's easily one of the top 3 scariest films I've ever watched.
Oh, absolutely, and great effects too. I love Frank's resurrection scene.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible.
I think that's a fantastic piece of effects there.
The movie feels, you could tell it's low budget, but it just, you don't give a fuck because it's just so well done.
Yeah.
Even though they had little money, it's everything because of the innovation, because of his art. It just works.
And a really great performance from Claire Higgins as Julia.
Oh, so underrated. Everybody talks about Pinhead and Kirsty, but
I hate her so much, but she's so awesome. God damn it.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Like, I don't hear anybody talk about Hellraiser unless they're mentioning Pinhead. Like, that's the only thing they mention.
Yeah.
And
I wrote an article for the HorrorSyndicate.com about how Julia is one of the most underrated horror.
Jason's gonna fucking kill us.
I was actually going to mention that, Seth, if you didn't, but yes. Go check his article out. It's good.
Jared, is that your ringtone? We keep hearing.
Yes, that's my ringtone. Yes.
So, Nate, I was cutting you off. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying it was Jason after us because we keep hearing the music. Yeah. That movie.
Next on the list is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I'm guessing the 70s version. I'm guessing.
Well, both. I mean,
yeah, I've only seen the 78. Is that right?
Well, there's like 4 of them, isn't there?
Yeah, I think there's 4 of them.
There's one in the 50s and the 70s and the 80s, and then there was one Arrival, right? Was that
there was the Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the 50s. There was the 50s, 70s, 90s, and then in the early 2000s, the Invasion with
Invasion. That's not. I was
Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't even know that was supposed to be Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie.
It was, a loose edit. Yeah.
I've never read the book.
I haven't either.
I've never either.
I've only seen the 70s movie, and that was, I don't know, last year. I really liked it, though. I kept hearing about it. It's just one of those movies I never saw. The only reason I bought it was because it was going out of print. And I was like, well, I get it now before I regret it. And I watched it, and I loved it.
You still haven't seen the 80s one yet?
No, I've never seen the 80s one.
Oh, my God. Gabrielle Lenoir? Come on.
Oh, man. Crush on her.
Where you going to go? Where you going to run? Where you going to hide?
You got to see the original, the 50s. Yeah. It's one of the best films of the 50s. If not the best film of the 50s.
Oh, yeah.
Like the original movie from the 50s is very close to the book. Very minor details are changed. It's a very good adaptation of the book. The book is good too. You guys should check it out. But the 1970s movie is just a beautiful piece of cinema for me. Just everything from the way it was shot, the way it was edited, the music. It was very paranoid. And that ending, like I saw that movie not knowing anything about that movie. Like I read the book and I saw the original movie, and when I went to the 78 movie, I was totally blown away by the ending because it's different, way different than how the book ends and everything, and it's just really cool ending.
But see, that's the one thing. Like people get annoyed whenever like a movie is not like the book or they change things, but sometimes it's good because then like you don't know what to expect from the movie. You're not just sitting there like I know what happens. Yep, that's right.
While we're on go ahead, Seth. I don't want to get off on it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, I mean, like, you kind of got to get away from the book, especially if you're doing like a remake. So you got one movie that was already close to the book as is. There'd be like literally no point of just going back to the book to do the same story. Whereas, like, say for example, if someone wants to do hate to say this is blasphemy, and I do not want this to happen at all. But if someone was to remake Die Hard, they could go back to the book Nothing Lasts Forever, and they could tell a faithful adaptation of that because
let's
Die
do
Hard
it.
A lot.
Let's do it.
No, Jared, no.
Commando 2.
Yeah, it'll be Seth. You'll love it because then they'll just have Bruce Willis as an old man having like a very small cameo because that's what we like to do.
No, well, that's hilarious because Amber was watching something about like she watches this YouTube channel where this guy compares books and movies, and this guy hilariously pointed out that if they made a faithful adaptation of Nothing Lasts Forever, Bruce Willis could play the character because the character Joe Leland in that book was an old man. He was like pushing 70.
Frank Sinatra was supposed to play it, right? Because it was a sequel.
Yes, because Sinatra played the character in The Detective. Yeah.
And then at one point, the movie was going to be the plot of Commando 2.
What?
Yeah.
There was going to be a sequel to Commando?
Yeah. Before we jump out of, like, since we're in the 50s, Jared and I both had our favorite horror novels not on this list because the movies aren't the greatest films ever. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson.
Oh, yeah.
Is my favorite horror novel. And I think Jared said it, same with him.
Yes.
If anyone's never read, Richard Matheson's one of the great. I mean, he's like, if there was no Richard Matheson, it would be a Stephen King. Like that's his hero. And I Am Legend is a hell of a book, and I do like the Vincent Price movie in the '60s, Last Man on Earth.
Last Man on Earth.
Probably my favorite out of those. I think the Will Smith movie would have been great if they hadn't gone with the CGI vampire bullshit. Like, because I thought Will did a good job in the movie. Taking nothing away from him, I thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Omega Man is a little very unique.
It was definitely more commercialized and funky for the 70s.
I would still love to see a very faithful adaptation of that book. It's time.
Something else.
Yeah.
See, I've never
supposed to play that part, wasn't he? Was he supposed to play Robert Neville before Will Smith got the part? I think for a while. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to play Robert Neville for a long time.
Yeah, for Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott was going to make it.
Yeah.
Would have been interesting. See, I've never read the book or seen the other movies. I saw I Am Legend in theaters when it came out, like the Will Smith version. So I didn't have any previous things like to know what it's supposed to be like because I love the movie I Am Legend.
I mean, it is good. I mean, it's just
So I didn't have any of
so much more with it.
Yeah, also, I didn't have those takeaways.
Also, one of my favorite titles, I Am Legend. That's just great.
Well, the ending makes it all worth it. You know, his revelation at the very end. It's so cool.
Yeah, everyone read that book if you haven't.
Yes, please.
Next on the list is Misery.
I remember reading that when I bought it when it came out.
Yeah. Cannot go wrong with that one.
It was great. In the movie, again, Rob Reiner, and anytime he touches Stephen King as far as the one thing the movie does better than the book is the hobbling scene, which is the most notorious scene. Because in the book, she chops his legs off or chops his feet off. But I kind of feel like the reason the sledgehammer works better is because I think I've broken my ankle. I've twisted my ankle playing basketball and things. I think a lot of people maybe sprang something or twisted something. So when something goes the wrong way, we kind of know what that pain feels like. Most of us don't know what it feels like to have our legs chopped off with an axe.
Yeah.
So it's a relatable pain that we see, and we're like, oh, yeah.
You feel it in your bones.
But, geez, I mean, that movie made Kathy Bates a movie star, thankfully, because she's so good. And because she was around, I was watching Dick Tracy yesterday. She's like, in there, she's like the girl, the taking the
she's in Dick Tracy.
Mumbles. Yeah, when Mumbles is giving Confession. She's the one taking it down, like trying to write around what he's saying. Which is like a year or so, maybe even the same year as Misery. But, and James Caan had left acting for a while. This was like his comeback. I love the film. I love the book. I think it's definitely King's top 10.
Yeah,
Yes.
Misery is something we watch like every winter. Me and Kayla.
Misery would be in my top 10 for sure. Not my top 5, unfortunately, because a couple of my top 5 are not his horror movie books.
Hell, my cat's name is even Misery, so if that tells you.
Nice. Nice.
Well, we named her after the book Misery and also a Metallica song, so.
My friend of Misery!
She's a black cat, so I was like, it seems fitting. Next on the list is Silence of the Lambs.
Thomas Harris.
If you consider this not a horror movie, then you're wrong.
You're fired. You guys are all fired if you don't think that.
Yeah, I went and saw this at the theater. It was a theater that let people, because it came out in 91. So I was
91, 92.
I was 15, so I wasn't probably supposed to be there, but this theater never cared. So me and my buddy, who was younger than me, went and saw it. And oh man, it's just such a good movie. It changed. It really kind of killed the horror genre in some ways because it was borderline thriller, and everything kind of went at the Silence of the Lambs way afterwards. But I did go out immediately and buy the book, read it, loved Thomas Harris, and immediately picked up Manhunter as well. Not Manhunter, Red Dragon. I liked Red Dragon, the book, even more than I liked Silence of the Lambs.
Same here.
And I hadn't seen Manhunter, but when Silence of the Lambs premiered on cable, they played Manhunter before it, so I got to see Manhunter that night.
Yeah, I've still never seen Manhunter.
Manhunter's excellent. I don't like Red Dragon. Just was a cash grab. It didn't need to be made. It's not bad, but Manhunter's still great.
I give Red Dragon a pass though because it was closer to the book than Manhunter was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
but
that's why I
get Anthony Hopkins to play Lecter again. It was like they were trying to get Anthony Hopkins to play Lecter again and get money for that. I didn't care for Hannibal at all. I didn't like the book or the movie for Hannibal.
Yeah,
but out of the books, I like Red Dragon. Out of the films, Silence of the Lambs is my favorite of the films.
See, again, me being young, like Silence of the Lambs was just like in the world. So I already knew the lines like "Hello, Clarice" and "Larva Beans," and I even think I saw Joe Dirt before I saw Silence of the Lambs.
It's Farva beans, not larva beans.
Is it Farva beans?
Yeah, they're. You want to eat larva beans?
I don't know.
Gross.
He doesn't actually say "Hello, Clarice," does it? That's one of those ones everybody quotes, but it's one of the "Luke, I am your father" type thing. But yeah, Anthony Hopkins was an actor who had been around. He'd been in Magic and Elephant Man and a lot of other things. But he was actually ready to give up being a film actor because his career wasn't taking off. And I think Silence of the Lambs was kind of like his last attempt. And he was just going to go back to being a theater actor. And, of course, the rest is history, like Silence of the Lambs. And it was kind of like Jodie Foster was coming off of The Accused.
Yeah, that was a huge role for her.
She had kind of just reinvented herself with that. I think really fought for this movie. I don't think they wanted her for Clarice.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she just kept bugging the shit out of them because I think she was a fan of the book or something like that. Because I think originally it was supposed to be Michelle Pfeiffer, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
That would have been a terrible choice.
What's so good about Jodie is Julianne Moore is amazing. One of my favorite actresses, but she just wasn't Jodie Foster.
No, not at all.
And it's the same with it's like, what is it with Julianne? She's always because she did the Carrie remake and was great, but still it's like, it's not Piper Laurie.
Yeah, she's not the mom. Oh God.
Next on the list is Psycho.
Oh, Black.
I've never read the book.
This is one where the movie is better than the book. Very, very different. Norman
I actually never finished the book. I got about halfway through and I found something else to read. It was one of those summers.
I read the first 2 books, but not the third one. If I remember correctly, the first book was pretty good, but Hitchcock improved it. I think there's more of a. I'm sorry.
It's not a bad book. It's just
no.
I think Norman's portrayal in the movie is just more intriguing. It's all based on Ed Gein. Robert Bloch lived in Wisconsin, I believe, and following that case and wrote Psycho. But Psycho doesn't really closely follow Ed Gein that much, and I guess maybe his Norman is a little closer because he's more of a big slob. He's definitely got less grace and less sophistication that Norman has, and but it's still a good book. Yeah, I don't want to say it's not a good book, but I just think it's fucking Hitchcock, and it's one of the great films of all time. So it's one of my top 10 horror films.
Didn't he go out of his way to buy the rights to the book or something?
He bought all the copies he could. So so nobody would know the twist.
You did.
And he made the movie all just because of that murder in the shower. That was kind of why he wanted to make the movie. I think he bought every copy he could get his hands on to keep people from knowing what happens to Marion Crane, I guess. But Marion Crane's not really a focus of the book, if I remember right, too much. Focuses more on Norman, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
been a while since I read it.
Well, maybe it's just not to give away the split personality thing.
Yeah, Hitchcock decided to make it about Marion Crane and this girl stealing money and
the book starts off with Norman.
It was I'm wrong. It was a screenwriter that suggested being about Marion, right?
I think so.
Yeah, he's the one that pitched being about Marion.
Yeah, because the book starts off with Norman, and I think it kind of reveals itself pretty early on, doesn't it? That mother's dead and stuff. It's been well over 20 years since I've read that book.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I know it starts off with him.
Yeah, but it's definitely a book worth reading just for its legacy.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing the differences, I could see why the movie would be better, just because the whole beginning segment with Marion is so good. Just the whole journey with her getting to Bates Motel.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2. Then we've got one more after this. Number 2 is Jaws, which I've never read the book. I know it's slightly different, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Movie. It's another one of the movies better.
The book is still really good.
Book is good.
It's very long-winded. I remember reading it when I was 10. It was a Reader's Digest that my grandparents had at their house. I don't even know if you guys remember Reader's Digest, but they used to have these things where there was compendiums where there was 4 or 5 books in a thing, and Jaws was one of them for that month. And I read that over the summer because I was staying there for a couple of weeks, and I was like, this is nothing like the movie, really. But I mean, it was at the same time. The characters were the same, but it's just like the situations were different, and like there was not the. Obviously, you get the anticipation and the anxiousness of the movie, but you don't feel it as much when you read the book, if that makes any sense.
I think Spielberg just, unlike a novelist, he was making an entertaining film.
Yeah.
And that's his goal. So he trimmed a lot of the fat. He got rid of like the Hooper and Mrs. Brody affair and like all these little things like that, and just kind of made it an adventure movie to the point where, we get to the end and like you got to blow the shark up. I think he was the author was real. Peter Benchley was very against that.
Peter Benchley.
But at the end, like when you get to the end of Jaws, you walk out of that theater pumped and excited. And it's just one of those great films. Like it changed cinema history. It's such a bitch to make that movie that the fact that it came out as amazing as it is. It's a hungry filmmaker who had something to prove.
Yeah, I'm shocked they didn't just give up with all the fucking problems they had with the shark.
Some teams would, man. Some teams would. But I mean, what came out of it was like we've talked about in previous episodes, like it became the summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
That was like the first real summer blockbuster.
It invented it.
Yeah.
It made so many people want to be filmmakers. I mean, Greg Nicotero is like his biggest fan. Like there's so many filmmakers who are in it because they saw Jaws and saw Star Wars in that era of the 70s, 75, 77. And, we were talking about that. Like my nephew was talking about Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola shitting on superhero movies. And I said, what's funny about it is like, superhero movies are just an extension of Jaws and Superman and Star Wars. Like those were the movies that changed. That once Jaws and Star Wars, Superman, Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, movies like The Godfather and Taxi Driver and all that stuff were not as coveted anymore by the audiences. I said, but what's funny is like Francis Ford Coppola shitting on it, but like he and George Lucas were like that, like they were like. Started their own company together and like Francis. So it's funny that like your homeboy is the reason this happened, right? George is blamed for this. But yeah, man, Jaws it changed cinema.
And Jaws is definitely one of those movies I don't ever get tired of watching.
It gets better every time I watch it. I
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years, it's just keep rising as one of my all-time. I'm obsessed with it. I watch it and I learn so much about the craft. And made by a kid, basically, like 25 years old or something.
Well, I also find it like relaxing because like my favorite parts of the movie are just when they're just shitting around on the boat, just floating in the open water.
Honestly, that's the best fucking part of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's when they get into the deep just dialogue and then they have the big conversation.
And they start bullshitting and they start drinking together and they start singing together and then, oh shit, okay, now we have a job to do together. Like we don't have any of this bullshit problems with each other. We're working together at that point.
I think Quentin Tarantino recently stated that Jaws is probably the greatest movie ever made. Take that with you. He's one of my. I love Quentin. Some people hate his guy. So
Quint's amazing. Number one on our list, which shouldn't be surprising whatsoever, is The Shining.
That's the only one that all five of us had on our list.
I wouldn't doubt it. It's one of the best movies ever.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the book and the movie are both phenomenal, and they're both very different, and that
very different.
A huge divide in the fan base, which it sucks. Like, man, I got two good Shinings. I'm taking two good Shinings, like because the book kind of doesn't work on film as well. I think Kubrick. It's Stanley Kubrick. Like, it's. I mean, he's an acquired taste, but he's a good taste. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. Like,
Still, literally one of the best directors of all time.
oh, he'll go down, top 20 filmmakers. It's just his art. He just blows my mind. And that movie, it's kind of one of Kubrick's lesser appreciated movies for film people. Like, it got like all kinds of Razzies. Like, if you say Shining's your favorite Kubrick movie, then you're not a Kubrick fan or purist or whatever. But I don't care. Like, I just love that story. I just love the film. Maybe it's the horror guy in me, because I love Paths of Glory and A Clockwork Orange, and
I was gonna say I still got Clockwork Orange. I'm okay with that.
The Killing and all that. But The Shining it's just my favorite Kubrick movie and my favorite Stephen King movie. And the book is one of my top 5 Stephen King books.
People always like to throw out the whole like Stephen King hates this movie, blah blah blah. I'm like, he just doesn't like that Jack Nicholson's the main character because he's already crazy. Like, that's literally
Those people and Stephen King himself could put down the fucking crack pipe, because Stephen King literally endorsed the Dark Tower movie, which took a steaming pile of shit.
Dog shit.
So he's gonna endorse that, but then he's gonna crap on Kubrick.
That was dog shit. Yes.
There's a movie called Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, Stephen King, the thing about Stephen hating it is I get it, because he hates it because it was a personal story, and what was really important to Stephen, Kubrick threw out the window.
Yeah.
So I get it, but just because he took that element out of it, that's the thing. When you're a writer and another person takes over your story or your script or your book,
you're gonna get touchy.
It's not yours anymore, and it's gonna get changed. You got to get over that.
And you're gonna get touchy about it.
Worse things have been done to Stephen King's material.
The Running.
Hi, Ray.
I heard you guys were on number 1, The Shining. I think that was my number 1.
It
was probably my number 1.
My number 2. Jaws was number 1 for me.
Oh yeah, maybe Jaws was number 1 for me. It's something
Jaws
like that.
probably would have been number 1 for me too if I had ordered in any specific order.
You have a stroke trying to get that one out, Jared? Jesus.
Specific.
How'd everything go?
Pretty good. Chit-chatted. My phone did not like showing me comments on Facebook, so
Yeah.
I kept trying to refresh it, and it was just like, no.
How would you guys rate the Carrie movies? Carrie 1976 is number 1.
I like The Rage.
I like The Rage also.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
The remake's okay. The 2013 or whatever one, the 2002 one, I couldn't get into. It looks like there was some comments. Sorry, I was dealing with life stuff.
It's all good.
Yeah.
As long as your baby girl's feeling okay.
She talked for like an hour straight without taking a breath while she was in the bathroom.
I remember those days, those fever, just like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, she has these things called Hatchimals, and she was telling me all their qualities and everything about them.
And 37.
And she's got 37.
There she goes.
Yeah. So, I'll be out there in a minute, babe.
Hi, Helena.
Be a demon? I got a demon in the room.
Uh-oh.
She's on not antibiotics. She's on ibuprofen. They can't see you. Yeah.
Jason,
She's on ibuprofen, so she's feeling a little
Hi,
better.
Helena.
They can't see you. You gotta get in the way, okay?
Hi.
I'll be out there in a minute.
I love you.
I love you too. Okay.
I'm bringing my Hatchimals out.
Okay. Anyway, thanks guys for anchoring this out. I mean, hopefully next week we can. Are we going to do the urban legends and ghost stories next week?
I'm down with that.
I am really looking
sounds
forward
cool.
to that. So
That'll give me a few extra days to do some research, but I have.
I know you got a couple out that way, but I'm going to tell a couple of things that we got on the website, like the albino tracks, the albino ghost tracks, which is kind of insensitive, but that's what they're called. and then the 7 Gates of Hell here in Collinsville. And then I know Jared's got some Gates of Hell out. There's Gates of Hell everywhere.
I was gonna say, I literally Gates of Hell like 20 minutes from me.
Isn't it? Is it 9?
It's the one
Or-
from Supernatural
Oh,
outside of Lawrence, Kansas. Seth, what's that called? He's flaking. It's Thor, Kansas.
I grew up
so
on Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
yeah, Nate. There we go.
He
Keith,
might have
you're not too
froze, I
far
don't
from
know.
Point Pleasant, right?
Yeah, I got Mothman.
Yeah. So
It's like I don't know, it's like less than an hour away. And then I
That's
know
cool.
we've also got the Flatwoods Monster. Pretty much,
that's
if you
not-
want to know about West Virginia urban legends, just go play Fallout 76 because they stuck all of it in the game.
did they-
That sounds
Yeah,
like
you
a
can
mean
fight
one.
Mothman, you can fight the Flatwoods Monster.
Mothman's
Sounds
peaceful
like a
though. I
mean
thought.
one.
He
Based on
can
the
be.
movie. Yeah. Indrid Cold, isn't that the movie? That's a Mothman Prophecies. That's a good movie.
Indrid Cole, yeah, he's the guy
Yeah.
that they interviewed. Yep.
Such a chilling voice. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks everybody again for taking care of me tonight. I appreciate it. Sorry it's dark in here. I didn't feel like turning the lights back
How
on.
much time do we have? gotta go?
1 minute
1
till
minute.
No, we gotta go.
9 Eastern.
Okay,
So,
watch Reanimator. It's based off H.P. Lovecraft. Watch In the Tall Grass. It's based off Joe Hill and Stephen King.
Horns,
Horns.
Yeah, Horns is good.
Horns, Joe Hill. Yes.
King of the Ants.
Okay.
King
Watch
of the
Dracula.
Ants. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Fuck.
Dracula. Anyway, you guys have a great. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, and tell everybody about the Horror Syndicate on Facebook. And we'll see you next Tuesday. It's Tuesdays. Don't forget Tuesdays from now on until whenever. And what?
Read Jack Ketchum. Rest in peace.
Jack- Yeah,
Yes,
you've talked about him a
Jack
lot
Ketchum.
over the past 2 years.
Yes, on the Jack Ketchum, guys.
Bye.
And don't forget
Seriously.
the Book of Boba is on at 3 a.m. See you all next week.